Hello, welcome to Anxiety Antidote number 28. I'm Georgina Grace, and I'm so glad that you joined me today for what we're talking about, which is being paralyzed by perfectionism. Because that perfectionism is often an aspect of anxiety. But before we get started, let's do this. Let's check out on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high. How's your anxiety in this moment? Just cast your eyes down or close them for a moment. Scan your body and check in to see what state you are in. So, the reason we are talking about the anxiety of perfectionism today is I have been working with mothers whose children have died of suicide. And I've been listening to them introduce their children to me. Mostly men, and an age range of teen up to mid 40s. And what I'm hearing is, I'm hearing incredibly high standards that these people held themselves accountable to. Remember, some of you know my son Reed, who died of suicide, held himself to a very high standard. And what I said after he died, because he made a mistake, he was so ashamed, so embarrassed, he wanted to die, and he did. So what I said after that was, being too hard on yourself can kill you. And as I've been listening to the stories of these mothers, it was like, whoa, we've really got to talk about this. So I'm very fortunate that our friend Alice Boyce from the Anxiety Toolkit has a whole chapter in her book about anxiety. And she calls it the paralysis of anxiety, when we're so paralyzed we can't move forward because of our standards of thinking. She calls these thinking errors. And I say to my clients when I'm coaching them, is that thought really true? Because a thought is simply that. It's just a thought. It was interesting. One of the things that gets me started every day is to have positive things come into my email. And there's a man in Eugene, Oregon, that sends messages as if they are from the universe, from God. And it was so interesting this morning because what came in was this: you are responsible for your happiness. We've all probably heard that from time to time. Sometimes we don't like it, especially when we are unhappy. Well, here was the kicker this morning. You are responsible for your unhappiness. That really jolted me. And the reason it jolted me is because I was in this mood. You know those moods that we get in, they're like the weather. They can shift, but they can hang around like low-hanging clouds. Well, I was in this mood, in this place of, things just aren't quite right. And I realized, that was my anxiety coming up as wanting everything to be perfect. So one of the first things that Dr. Boyce talks about in this chapter is navigating all or nothing thinking. Either it's all got to be perfect, or no, I can't do anything right. Does that sound familiar? When was the last time that thought came up for you? Well, here's a tool. You may stop when that thought comes up. Find the nearest restroom, bathroom, mirror. Stand in front of the mirror. Say the thought that's bugging you. And then ask, is this really true? And notice what happens in your body. Because as soon as I said those words, is this really true? I had this energy wave go from my tense shoulders all the way down my body and out my toes. Another thing Dr. Boyce talks about with the paralysis of anxiety is the thought, oh, it's too hard for me. And in that, she invites us to pause once again and to ask, is that really true? And then in all the time management things that I've done and project management over the years, I realize it's really easy to just list all of the steps necessary to get something done. And then if you don't have to go in a sequence, start with the easiest thing and just work your way up. We'll do this one, and we'll do this one, and we'll do this one. So, in all or nothing thinking, find a middle ground. It doesn't have to be A, it doesn't have to be Z. Find something in the middle. Find the middle ground. Because one of the things that happens for those of us who are perfectionists is that these thoughts can drain our energy. The all or nothing thought can drain our energy and paralyze us. And then the thought, oh, it's too hard for me. Stop. Go to your nearest mirror, look in the mirror, and say, hey, this is just a thought. Is this thought really true? And if it is something you really would love to do, make that list from the easiest to the hardest and get started now. Thanks so much for joining me today. I invite you to put your comments below. It's so much fun to meet with clients who will just say, oh my gosh, I just listened to the last Anxiety Antidote and it helped me do X, Y, Z. I love hearing that, especially when it's unsolicited. I don't even know if they've been listening to these things, but it's really fun to hear. And then when I say, well, how was it? It's something that when you write in the space beneath this, why it worked, what a difference it made, it begins to start a dialogue in our community. So thanks so much for watching and joining me today for Anxiety Antidote number 28. And remember, if you have an idea for an anxiety antidote, go to integratedwellbeinginstitute.com, click on contact, and send me your ideas. I would love to research them, hear about them, and maybe we could even have a conversation about them. Thanks a million. Take deep care.